Struggling with tough situations? This audiobook will teach you how to sharpen your critical thinking to navigate any challenge with clarity and confidence. Unlock the strategies to turn obstacles into opportunities and discover the power of making thoughtful, deliberate choices. Introduction. Welcome to this audiobook, where you're about to discover the game-changing skill that can transform every part of your life, critical thinking. But here's the twist. It's not just about making smarter decisions. It's about unlocking a whole new way of approaching life's toughest challenges. Let's face it, we live in a world that moves fast, where things are always changing, and uncertainty is the only thing we can count on. It feels like we're constantly bombarded with information, emotions, and pressure. And in the midst of all that chaos, how do you make decisions that actually move you forward? How do you trust your own judgment when everything around you is pulling you in different directions? Here's the thing. Critical thinking isn't just for philosophers or scientists. It's the secret weapon you can use in your day-to-day life to cut through the noise, see the bigger picture, and make decisions that truly serve you, especially when the stakes are high. In the next chapters, you'll learn practical tools, techniques, and mindsets that will help you navigate even the toughest situations with confidence. You'll discover how to silence the mental chatter, separate emotions from logic, and unlock your mind's full potential to find solutions faster and smarter than ever before. Imagine having the ability to stay calm in a crisis, to analyze situations from all angles, and to make decisions that lead you closer to your goals. What if you could make every choice with a sense of clarity and certainty, even when everything around you feels chaotic? This audiobook isn't just about thinking better. It's about thinking in a way that serves you, that empowers you, and that gives you the tools to handle life's most difficult moments. By the end of this journey, you'll have everything you need to face any challenge head-on with clarity, confidence, and purpose. So, if you're ready to take control of your decisions, transform your mindset, and master the art of critical thinking, then let's get started. Chapter 1. What is critical thinking? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where the decision you were about to make didn't quite feel right, but you couldn't put your finger on why? Or perhaps you faced challenges in life where it felt like emotions were clouding your judgment, and you weren't sure how to step back and think through things logically. In these moments, the ability to engage in critical thinking could be the key that unlocks the clarity and direction you need. Critical thinking isn't just about solving problems. It's a transformative way of engaging with the world that helps you make better decisions, understand complex situations, and ultimately live a more fulfilling life. Critical thinking is the process of evaluating, analyzing, and synthesizing information in a systematic way. It's about asking questions, exploring ideas, and applying logic to form conclusions that are based on facts and reason, rather than on emotion or assumption. It allows you to make decisions with a clear mind, free from bias, and based on sound judgment. It's a skill that, when mastered, can help you navigate difficult situations with confidence, understanding, and resilience. This chapter is dedicated to helping you understand what critical thinking really is, clearing up common misconceptions, and exploring how it fits into our everyday decision-making, especially when emotions are involved. Let's dive in and unlock the transformative power of critical thinking. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking, at its most fundamental level, is the ability to think clearly and rationally, to understand the logical connection between ideas, and to make decisions based on evidence and sound reasoning. It's not just about having opinions or reacting to situations. It's about engaging thoughtfully with information, weighing options carefully, and making judgments that are well-reasoned and objective. In everyday life, we make countless decisions, both big and small. Some are straightforward, requiring little thought, while others are more complex and require a deeper level of analysis. Critical thinking comes into play in those moments where decisions carry weight, when you're facing difficult problems, when you're unsure of the best course of action, or when emotions threaten to overshadow your ability to think clearly. It is a mental process that involves several key stages: observation, interpretation, analysis, evaluation, and reflection. Let's break these down. Observation. The first step in critical thinking is gathering information. This means being aware of what's happening around you, noticing the details, and paying attention to relevant facts or data. Interpretation. Once you've observed a situation or problem, the next step is interpreting that information. This involves considering the meaning behind the facts, connecting the dots, and understanding how things fit together. Analysis. In this stage, you dissect the information, looking for patterns, inconsistencies, or underlying issues. You examine the situation from different angles, considering all possibilities and implications. Evaluation. Evaluation is about assessing the quality of the information. Does it make sense? Is it credible? Are there gaps in the information? In this stage, critical thinkers judge the validity of the data, arguments, or solutions based on logic, evidence, and reason. Reflection. After evaluating, critical thinking requires reflection. You step back and consider how your thoughts and conclusions align with your values, goals, and the broader context. Are you making a decision based on sound reasoning, or are emotions or biases playing a bigger role than you realize? Critical thinking helps you improve your ability to solve problems by allowing you to weigh options thoughtfully and make decisions that are well-grounded in logic and evidence. It's about making decisions that stand up to scrutiny, even in difficult or uncertain circumstances. It empowers you to approach challenges with a calm, clear mind, equipped to navigate complexities with confidence. Core principles of critical thinking. To truly engage in critical thinking, there are a few key principles to keep in mind. These principles act as the foundation for making thoughtful, deliberate decisions and maintaining intellectual integrity. 1. Clarity. Critical thinking starts with clarity. Without a clear understanding of the situation or the issue at hand, it's nearly impossible to make well-informed decisions. The first step is always to make sure you fully grasp what's being asked or what's at stake. Clarity is about ensuring that ideas and arguments are expressed clearly and unambiguously. If something doesn't make sense, it's worth slowing down and asking questions to clarify your understanding. 2. Accuracy. Accuracy is the cornerstone of critical thinking. Inaccurate information leads to poor decisions. When evaluating any situation or piece of information, always ask, is this true? Is this based on reliable sources or solid evidence? Accuracy ensures that the conclusions you draw are grounded in reality, and it allows you to avoid the pitfalls of misinformation or flawed reasoning. 3. Relevance. Relevance is another principle of critical thinking. In any problem-solving process, it's essential to focus on the information that directly relates to the issue. Stray distractions or irrelevant details can cloud your judgment. Stay focused on the facts and arguments that matter most to the situation and filter out the noise. 4. Consistency. Consistency is about logical coherence. It's important that your reasoning is consistent and that your conclusions follow from your premises. If something doesn't logically align, it could indicate a flaw in the reasoning process. This principle ensures that the arguments you're considering are structurally sound and lead to sensible outcomes. 5. Depth. Critical thinking requires depth. Often, the surface-level details of a situation can seem simple or straightforward, but in reality, many issues are multifaceted. Critical thinking encourages you to look deeper into the underlying causes, implications, and complexities of a situation. It's about not settling for easy answers, but rather delving into the heart of the problem. 6. Breadth. Breadth involves looking at the bigger picture. Sometimes our own experiences or perspectives can limit our thinking. Critical thinkers strive to consider a range of viewpoints and explore alternative solutions. This helps prevent tunnel vision and encourages a more comprehensive approach to problem solving. 7. Fairness. Fairness ensures that you approach issues without bias. It's about evaluating all sides of an argument fairly, considering differing viewpoints, and making decisions that are free from prejudice or personal bias. Fairness allows for more balanced, objective thinking and decision-making. By integrating these principles into your everyday thinking process, you begin to sharpen your critical thinking skills and approach life's challenges with more clarity, purpose, and effectiveness. Misconceptions about critical thinking. While critical thinking is an invaluable skill, there are a few misconceptions about it that often prevent people from embracing it fully. Let's address some of these common myths. 1. Critical thinking is just about being critical. Many people equate critical thinking with simply being critical or judgmental. However, critical thinking isn't about being negative or fault-finding. It's about being thoughtful and discerning. It's about understanding different perspectives, questioning assumptions, and evaluating information without bias. Critical thinking helps you make sound judgments, but it doesn't involve attacking others or dismissing ideas outright. 2. Critical thinking is only about logic. While logic plays a significant role in critical thinking, it's not the only component. Critical thinking also involves creativity, empathy, and emotional intelligence. Logic provides the structure for reasoning, but it's the combination of logic and creativity that allows you to think outside the box and come up with innovative solutions. Emotions can also play a role in critical thinking as they help inform your values and priorities. 3. Critical thinking is an inborn talent. Some people believe that critical thinking is something you either have or don't have, but this isn't true. Critical thinking is a learned skill, one that anyone can develop with practice. It takes time and effort, but by actively engaging in thoughtful reflection, questioning assumptions, and seeking out new information, you can improve your critical thinking abilities over time. Critical thinking is only useful in intellectual settings. Critical thinking is often associated with academic settings or intellectual debates, but its value extends far beyond those contexts. It is essential in every aspect of life: personal relationships, career decisions, financial planning, and even how you manage daily tasks. Critical thinking helps you make informed choices that align with your goals, values, and aspirations, no matter the context. The role of emotion versus logic in decision-making. Critical thinking doesn't mean completely abandoning emotions in favor of logic. In fact, emotions and logic both play significant roles in decision-making. Emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage your emotions, works hand in hand with logical reasoning. While logic allows us to process facts and draw conclusions based on evidence, emotions often provide us with valuable insights into what truly matters to us. Our emotions can guide us toward what feels right or important, but they should never drive our decisions unchecked. Critical thinking is about balancing logic and emotion. It's about recognizing when emotions are clouding your judgment and making sure that decisions are based on sound reasoning. When you can achieve this balance, you not only make better decisions, but also develop a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Why critical thinking is crucial in difficult situations. Life's challenges often come with high stakes, whether it's a personal crisis, a career dilemma, or a difficult decision that affects those around you. In these situations, the ability to think critically is indispensable. Critical thinking helps you regain control in moments of chaos, evaluate your options rationally, and make choices that are aligned with your long-term goals. It's in these difficult situations where critical thinking truly shines. When emotions are high and the pressure is on, it's easy to fall back on instincts or impulsive decisions. Critical thinking, however, helps you step back, assess the situation, and act in a way that serves you and others best. It provides the framework for making decisions that are well thought out, balanced, and considerate of both logic and emotion. Chapter 2. Understanding difficult situations, the foundation of clarity. We all encounter moments in life when the weight of a decision feels unbearable, where the very fabric of our reality seems tangled in knots. A difficult situation is rarely a straightforward problem with an obvious solution. Instead, it's a swirling storm of emotions, competing priorities, and unclear outcomes. Whether it's navigating a personal conflict, addressing a professional crisis, or facing a moral dilemma, these moments test the very core of who we are and how we think. But what makes a situation difficult? And why do some of us crumble under pressure while others rise to the occasion? The answers lie in understanding the intricate anatomy of challenging circumstances. Difficult situations are rarely about the surface issue. More often, they're a confluence of stressors including uncertainty, emotional intensity, and perceived stakes. Let's start with uncertainty, a condition that human beings are hardwired to dislike. We crave predictability and control. When these are stripped away, anxiety sets in. The mind begins to spiral, grasping for answers where there might be none yet. Think about waiting for the results of a medical test or facing an unexpected job loss. The unknown isn't just unsettling, it can be paralyzing. Then there's the role of emotion. Every difficult situation is accompanied by a spectrum of feelings: fear, anger, sadness, frustration, or even guilt. These emotions are natural and often necessary. They signal to us that something important is at stake. However, when emotions run unchecked, they can cloud judgment. Imagine trying to resolve a heated argument with a loved one while your temper flares. Instead of listening or seeking resolution, the conversation devolves into blame and defensiveness. Emotions, when unmanaged, can transform a solvable problem into an insurmountable one. And then we have perceived stakes, the belief that everything hinges on the decision at hand. Sometimes, these stakes are real. A critical business decision that could impact hundreds of people, or a medical emergency where time is of the essence. Other times, the stakes are exaggerated by our minds, magnified by fear or ego. For instance, deciding whether to leave a toxic job might feel like an irreversible choice when, in reality, it could be the first step toward a better future. The perception of high stakes amplifies pressure, often leading to impulsive or overly cautious decisions. Understanding these elements, uncertainty, emotion, and perceived stakes, is the first step toward mastering difficult situations. Each of these factors interacts with the others, creating a unique web of challenges. But recognizing this complexity doesn't mean succumbing to it. Instead, it allows us to approach these moments with greater awareness, breaking them down into manageable components. By doing so, we strip away the illusion of insurmountably and begin to see a path forward. One of the most profound insights about difficult situations is that they are as much about our internal state as they are about external circumstances. Two people can face the exact same scenario and respond entirely differently, not because the situation itself changes, but because their mental frameworks differ. For instance, consider a public speaking engagement. To one person, it's an exhilarating opportunity. To another, it's a nerve-wracking ordeal. The difference lies in perception, preparedness, and mindset. This realization is empowering. While we can't always control external events, we can control how we perceive and respond to them. Let's explore a practical example to illustrate this point. Imagine you're tasked with delivering bad news to your team at work, perhaps announcing layoffs or a failed project. The situation feels overwhelming because it combines uncertainty. How will they react? Emotion? You care about your team and don't want to hurt them. and stakes. Their livelihoods are on the line. Without a clear framework, it's easy to fall into extremes, either avoiding the situation entirely or delivering the message poorly, exacerbating the damage. Now, approach this scenario with the tools of critical thinking. First, acknowledge the complexity of the situation and the emotions it evokes. Instead of suppressing your feelings, recognize them as part of the process. Second, gather as much information as possible. What led to this decision? Are there alternatives? What steps can be taken to support the affected team members? Third, consider the perspective of your audience. How would you feel in their shoes, and what approach would you appreciate? Finally, plan your communication carefully, balancing honesty with empathy. By breaking the situation into its components and addressing each thoughtfully, you transform a seemingly impossible task into one that, while still challenging, is manageable. This shift, from reacting to responding, lies at the heart of critical thinking in difficult situations. Reacting is instinctual, often driven by fear or impulse. Responding, on the other hand, is deliberate. It's rooted in understanding the situation, weighing options, and choosing the course of action that aligns with your values and goals. Responding requires discipline and patience, but it also builds trust with yourself and with others. It's important to note that not all difficult situations demand immediate action. One of the most valuable skills you can cultivate is the ability to pause. Pausing doesn't mean procrastinating or avoiding a decision. It means creating space to think clearly. This might involve stepping away from a heated conversation to calm down, or taking a day to reflect before making a significant choice. In the pause, you allow your emotions to settle, your thoughts to clarify, and your instincts to align with reason. Difficult situations are inevitable, but they are also opportunities for growth. They force us to confront our fears, challenge our assumptions, and stretch beyond our comfort zones. Each time you navigate a tough moment, you strengthen your capacity for resilience and critical thinking. Over time, these skills become second nature, enabling you to face even greater challenges with confidence. As we move forward in this audiobook, we'll delve deeper into the core skills of critical thinking. Building on this foundation of understanding, you'll learn practical techniques to analyze situations, manage emotions, and make sound decisions even when the pressure is on. But for now, take a moment to reflect on the difficult situations you've faced in the past. What made them challenging? How did you respond? And what would you do differently with the tools you're learning here? This reflection isn't about dwelling on mistakes. It's about recognizing your potential for growth. Difficult situations, by their very nature, are transformative. They test our character, our intellect, and our resolve. But with critical thinking as your guide, you can transform these moments of struggle into stepping stones toward greater clarity, confidence, and success. Chapter 3: The Core Skills of Critical Thinking, Building the Mental Toolkit. When life challenges us with difficult situations, we're often left grasping for clarity, trying to make sense of chaos. It's in these moments that our ability to think critically becomes a lifeline, helping us chart a course through uncertainty. But what exactly does it mean to think critically? Is it simply about being logical, or is there a deeper, more nuanced set of skills at play? To develop the art of critical thinking, we must first understand its core components and the mental tools that underpin them. These tools aren't abstract concepts. They're practical, actionable skills that you can apply to any situation, no matter how complex or daunting it may seem. At its heart, critical thinking is about asking the right questions. It's a mindset that challenges the surface-level assumptions we often take for granted. Every situation, no matter how straightforward it appears, is layered with nuances, hidden factors, and unspoken dynamics. Asking questions like, "Why is this happening?" or "What evidence supports this claim?" is the first step toward peeling back those layers. These questions may seem simple, but their impact is profound. They force us to pause, reflect, and dig deeper, moving beyond gut reactions or superficial judgments. For example, in a workplace conflict, instead of immediately assigning blame, a critical thinker would ask, "What underlying factors contributed to this issue?" Or, "How can we prevent this from happening again?" Such inquiries not only guide us toward better solutions, but also foster a culture of accountability and growth. Another essential skill in critical thinking is recognizing and managing cognitive biases. Our brains are remarkable, but they're also prone to shortcuts, mental heuristics that help us process information quickly, but often lead to flawed conclusions. Biases like confirmation bias, where we favor information that aligns with our existing beliefs, or availability bias, where we overestimate the importance of information that comes readily to mind, can distort our thinking in subtle yet powerful ways. Imagine a scenario where you're deciding whether to invest in a new project. Confirmation bias might lead you to focus solely on data that supports your optimism while ignoring potential risks. Awareness of these biases allows you to counteract them, ensuring your decisions are based on a balanced and comprehensive evaluation of the facts. Evaluating evidence is another cornerstone of critical thinking. In a world flooded with information, discerning reliable evidence from noise is more crucial than ever. This skill involves not just gathering data, but also assessing its credibility, relevance, and context. For instance, when faced with a health-related decision, a critical thinker would look beyond anecdotal claims or sensational headlines, seeking out peer-reviewed studies and expert opinions. They would also question the source of the information. Is it unbiased? Does it have a vested interest in a particular outcome? By rigorously evaluating evidence, you ensure that your decisions are informed by facts, not assumptions or misinformation. Critical thinking also requires the ability to weigh options and anticipate consequences. This involves considering multiple perspectives, exploring alternative solutions, and thinking through the potential ripple effects of each choice. It's not about predicting the future, but rather preparing for it by envisioning different scenarios. Take, for example, a decision to relocate for a new job. A critical thinker would not only evaluate the immediate benefits, such as a higher salary or better career prospects, but also consider the long-term implications. How will this move affect your personal relationships? What are the risks if the new role doesn't meet your expectations? By systematically analyzing the pros and cons, you create a clear picture of what's at stake and make a more informed decision. One of the most underrated aspects of critical thinking is emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage your emotions while navigating challenging situations. Emotions are not the enemy of critical thinking. Rather, they are signals that provide valuable insights into what matters most to us. However, when emotions dominate unchecked, they can cloud our judgment, leading to impulsive or irrational choices. Developing emotional intelligence involves recognizing your feelings without being ruled by them, creating space for rational thought to guide your actions. For instance, in a heated argument, instead of lashing out in anger, you might pause to ask yourself, "Why am I feeling this way? What is the underlying concern I need to address?" This self-awareness not only diffuses tension, but also allows you to approach the situation with greater clarity and compassion. Finally, critical thinking is about cultivating a mindset of adaptability and curiosity. The world is constantly changing, and so are the challenges we face. A rigid thinker clings to familiar patterns and resists change, while a critical thinker embraces uncertainty as an opportunity for growth. This requires a willingness to question even your own beliefs and assumptions, recognizing that learning is a lifelong process. Consider a leader who faces declining performance in their organization. Instead of blaming external factors or doubling down on outdated strategies, a critical thinker would ask, "What am I missing? What can I learn from others who have faced similar challenges? This openness to new perspectives not only fosters innovation, but also builds resilience in the face of adversity. Each of these skills, asking the right questions, managing biases, evaluating evidence, weighing options, mastering emotional intelligence, and embracing adaptability, is a vital piece of the critical thinking puzzle. Together, they form a mental toolkit that empowers you to navigate even the most difficult situations with confidence and clarity. But like any skill set, critical thinking requires practice. It's not enough to understand these principles in theory. You must apply them consistently, refining your approach with each new challenge. To begin, start small. Choose a decision you're currently facing, whether it's selecting a new hobby, resolving a minor conflict, or planning a weekend trip. Practice breaking it down systematically. What are the key questions you need to answer? What biases might be influencing your judgment? What evidence do you need to gather? As you work through these steps, you'll begin to notice a shift, not just in how you approach decisions, but in how you perceive the world around you. Problems that once felt overwhelming will start to feel more manageable, and your confidence in your ability to handle them will grow. As we continue this journey, we'll build on these foundational skills, exploring practical frameworks and techniques for applying critical thinking in real-world scenarios. You'll learn how to turn abstract concepts into actionable strategies, equipping yourself to handle life's complexities with grace and determination. Remember, critical thinking is not a destination. It's a process, one that evolves and deepens with practice. With each step you take, you're not just solving problems, you're transforming the way you see and engage with the world. The skills you're cultivating aren't just tools for survival, they're the keys to thriving, even in the face of uncertainty. So, keep going. Each moment of reflection, each decision made with intention, brings you closer to mastering the art of critical thinking and unlocking your full potential. Chapter 4. The Role of Self-Awareness in Critical Thinking. Knowing yourself to know the world. Critical thinking begins with an essential yet often overlooked element, self-awareness. Before we can dissect complex problems or untangle difficult situations, we must first turn inward and understand the lens through which we view the world. This internal clarity is the foundation of effective decision-making, and without it, even the most logical frameworks can falter. Self-awareness is not merely a buzzword, it is the cornerstone of critical thinking, helping you identify your biases, manage your emotions, and approach challenges with an honest understanding of your strengths and limitations. At its core, self-awareness is the ability to see yourself objectively, your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and recognize how they influence your perception of the world. It's about understanding the why behind your reactions and choices. Why do certain situations make you anxious? Why do you gravitate towards certain solutions while avoiding others? These aren't easy questions to answer because they require peeling back the layers of habit, ego, and fear that shape our thinking. Yet, the answers to these questions are invaluable because they reveal the inner workings of your mind, allowing you to make decisions rooted in authenticity rather than automatic responses. Let's consider how self-awareness plays out in a real-world scenario. Imagine you're in a meeting at work where a colleague criticizes your project. Instantly, you feel a surge of defensiveness and your mind races to justify your decisions. Without self-awareness, this reaction might escalate into conflict or lead you to dismiss valid feedback. However, a self-aware individual pauses to examine the emotion. Why do I feel defensive? Is it because I fear being seen as incompetent? Or is it because I believe my ideas are being misunderstood? By identifying the underlying emotion and its cause, you create space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This shift, from reaction to reflection, is the hallmark of self-awareness in action. One of the most profound benefits of self-awareness is the ability to identify and challenge your biases. Biases are mental shortcuts that influence our thinking, often without our conscious realization. They can stem from past experiences, cultural conditioning, or personal values. For instance, you might unknowingly favor solutions that align with your worldview, even when alternative options might be more effective. Self-awareness helps you recognize these blind spots, allowing you to approach problems with greater objectivity. Consider a scenario where you're tasked with hiring a new team member. Without realizing it, you might lean toward candidates who share your background or communication style, believing they're a better fit. This is an example of affinity bias, where we gravitate toward people who remind us of ourselves. A self-aware individual would pause to ask, am I evaluating this candidate based on their qualifications and potential? Or am I allowing my personal preferences to influence my judgment? By questioning your biases, you create a more equitable and effective decision-making process. Self-awareness also plays a critical role in managing emotions, especially in high-pressure situations. Emotions are powerful motivators, but they can also distort our thinking if left unchecked. Fear, for example, might lead you to avoid risks that could yield significant rewards, while anger might push you to make decisions you later regret. Self-awareness allows you to acknowledge these emotions without being controlled by them. It's the difference between saying, I feel angry, so I'll lash out, and I feel angry, so I'll take a moment to understand why before responding. Take the example of a parent trying to discipline a child who has misbehaved. Without self-awareness, frustration might lead to yelling, which escalates the situation and damages trust. However, a self-aware parent recognizes the frustration and takes a moment to consider its source. Am I upset because of the child's behavior, or is it because I'm already stressed from work? By separating the emotion from the situation, the parent can address the issue calmly and constructively. Another vital aspect of self-awareness is understanding your values and priorities. Difficult situations often involve trade-offs where you must choose between competing interests. Knowing what matters most to you provides a compass for making these decisions. For instance, if you're deciding whether to accept a promotion that requires relocating, self-awareness helps you weigh the professional growth against the impact on your personal life. Without this clarity, you might make a decision that feels right in the moment, but conflicts with your long-term goals. Developing self-awareness is a lifelong process, but it begins with intentional practices. One of the most effective tools is self-reflection, regularly taking time to examine your thoughts, emotions, and actions. This could be as simple as journaling about a challenging situation, asking yourself what went well, what didn't, and what you learned. Over time, this practice reveals patterns in your behavior, helping you identify triggers, biases, and areas for growth. Another powerful technique is seeking feedback from others. Often, our blind spots are visible to those around us, and their perspectives can provide invaluable insights. However, receiving feedback requires humility and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Instead of becoming defensive, approach feedback as an opportunity to learn. For example, if a colleague points out that you tend to dominate conversations in meetings, resist the urge to justify your behavior. Instead, reflect on how this habit might be perceived and consider steps to address it. Mindfulness is another practice that enhances self-awareness by grounding you in the present moment. It involves observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment, creating a space between stimulus and response. In moments of stress, mindfulness allows you to pause, breathe, and reset your perspective. For instance, if you're feeling overwhelmed by a tight deadline, mindfulness helps you acknowledge the pressure without letting it consume you, enabling you to focus on actionable steps. Ultimately, self-awareness is about building a deeper relationship with yourself. It's about understanding who you are, not just on the surface, but at your core. This self-knowledge empowers you to approach challenges with authenticity and confidence, ensuring that your decisions align with your values and aspirations. Moreover, self-awareness fosters empathy, allowing you to understand and connect with others on a deeper level. When you're aware of your own emotions and biases, you become better equipped to navigate interpersonal dynamics, resolve conflicts, and build trust. As we move forward, we'll explore how to apply this self-awareness in specific contexts, from navigating conflicts to making high-stakes decisions. But for now, take a moment to reflect on your journey of self-awareness. What have you learned about yourself through past challenges? What patterns or biases have you noticed in your thinking? Remember, self-awareness is not about perfection. It's about progress. Each step you take toward understanding yourself brings you closer to mastering the art of critical thinking and living with purpose. Chapter 5. Breaking down problems. A systematic approach to clarity. Life's challenges often feel like insurmountable mountains, towering over us with their complexity and weight. The enormity of a problem can make us freeze, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of decisions and uncertainties involved. Yet, critical thinking teaches us a valuable truth. No problem, no matter how massive, is truly insurmountable. The key lies in breaking it down into manageable components, deconstructing complexity into clarity. This systematic approach not only empowers you to address the immediate challenge, but also builds your confidence and resilience for the future. At its essence, problem solving is about perspective. When we view a challenge as an impenetrable wall, our minds focus on what's blocking us rather than what's possible. But if we shift our perspective, treating the problem as a puzzle with interconnected pieces, we open ourselves to curiosity and exploration. Each piece represents a specific aspect of the challenge: facts, emotions, potential outcomes. And as we fit them together, the picture becomes clearer. This shift from viewing problems as threats to opportunities for understanding is a cornerstone of critical thinking. Let's start with the first step: clearly defining the problem. It sounds straightforward, but many of us skip this step, rushing to solve a situation before fully understanding it. For example, imagine you're struggling with declining performance in your small business. On the surface, the problem might seem to be low sales. But if you pause to dig deeper, you might discover that the real issue lies in customer retention, ineffective marketing, or even internal team dynamics. By taking the time to articulate the problem accurately, you ensure that your efforts are directed toward its root cause rather than its symptoms. A well-defined problem is already half solved because it focuses your energy where it matters most. Once the problem is defined, the next step is gathering information. This is where critical thinking truly begins to shine. Collecting data isn't just about amassing facts. It's about identifying relevant, reliable, and actionable insights. Ask yourself, what do I know about this situation? What don't I know? What assumptions am I making, and how can I test them? These questions guide your inquiry, ensuring that your understanding of the problem is grounded in reality rather than conjecture. For example, if your problem involves a conflict with a colleague, you might gather information about their perspective, past interactions, and external factors influencing their behavior. This process not only broadens your understanding, but also helps dismantle preconceived notions that might cloud your judgment. The third step is breaking the problem into smaller parts. This step is particularly powerful for diffusing the emotional intensity that often accompanies difficult situations. A complex problem, viewed in its entirety, can feel overwhelming. But when you divide it into smaller, actionable components, it becomes more approachable. For instance, consider the challenge of managing a major life transition, such as moving to a new city for a job. Instead of viewing it as a single daunting task, break it down into specific areas: finding housing, budgeting for expenses, building a social network, and learning about the new environment. Each of these smaller tasks is manageable on its own, and tackling them step by step creates momentum that propels you forward. Next comes brainstorming solutions. This is where creativity meets critical thinking. Instead of settling for the first solution that comes to mind, challenge yourself to explore multiple possibilities. Ask, what are all the ways this problem could be addressed? And what haven't I considered yet? This process not only generates a range of options, but also encourages you to think outside the box. For example, if you're struggling to balance work and family responsibilities, brainstorming might reveal unconventional solutions, such as renegotiating your work schedule, delegating tasks, or incorporating more shared family activities into your routine. The goal isn't to find the perfect solution right away, but to open your mind to possibilities. Once you have a list of potential solutions, it's time to evaluate them critically. This involves weighing the pros and cons of each option, considering their feasibility, potential impact, and alignment with your values. Critical thinking helps you approach this evaluation systematically, using criteria to guide your analysis. For instance, if you're deciding whether to invest in a new business venture, your criteria might include financial risk, market potential, and alignment with your long-term goals. By comparing each option against these criteria, you can make a decision that feels both rational and aligned with your priorities. An often overlooked aspect of problem solving is anticipating potential obstacles. Even the best laid plans encounter challenges, and critical thinkers prepare for them in advance. Ask yourself, what could go wrong, and how will I respond if it does? This proactive mindset not only minimizes surprises, but also builds your confidence in executing your chosen solution. For instance, if your plan involves launching a new product, you might anticipate potential obstacles like supply chain delays or negative customer feedback. By preparing contingency plans, you ensure that you're ready to adapt, no matter what unfolds. Finally, take action. All the critical thinking in the world is meaningless if it doesn't lead to action. However, this action doesn't need to be perfect or final. Often, the first step is simply testing your solution on a small scale, gathering feedback, and refining your approach. This iterative process allows you to learn and adapt, transforming problem solving into a dynamic, ongoing practice. For example, if your solution involves improving communication in your team, your first step might be implementing regular check-ins and observing their impact. Based on the results, you can adjust your approach, gradually building a more effective system. The beauty of breaking down problems lies not only in its practicality, but also in its transformative power. Each time you approach a challenge systematically, you're training your mind to think more clearly, adapt more effectively, and face uncertainty with resilience. Over time, this process becomes second nature, enabling you to tackle even the most daunting situations with confidence and composure. But perhaps the most profound lesson is this: every problem is an opportunity for growth. It's a chance to deepen your understanding, expand your capabilities, and strengthen your character. When you break down a problem, you're not just solving it, you're transforming it into a stepping stone for greater clarity, wisdom, and success. As we continue this journey, we'll explore how to apply this systematic approach to specific scenarios, from managing interpersonal conflicts to making high-stakes decisions. But for now, take a moment to reflect on a challenge you're currently facing. How can you define it more clearly? What information do you need to gather? And what smaller steps can you take to move forward? Remember, no problem is too big when you have the tools to break it down and tackle it piece by piece. Chapter 6: Emotional Mastery, Balancing Logic and Feeling in Critical Thinking. When faced with life's most difficult situations, it is not logic alone that guides us. Our emotions, those invisible forces that shape our perceptions, decisions, and actions, play an equally significant role. In moments of crisis, Fear may whisper warnings, anger may demand immediate action, and hope may offer a glimmer of possibility. To think critically in challenging times, we must learn to master these emotions, neither suppressing them nor letting them dictate our choices. Instead, we balance them with logic, creating a harmonious partnership between thought and feeling that empowers us to make decisions with clarity and confidence. To master emotions in critical thinking, the first step is understanding their purpose. Emotions are not the enemy of reason. They are its companion, signaling what matters most to us. Fear alerts us to potential danger. Sadness reminds us of what we value, and joy inspires us to pursue what fulfills us. However, when left unchecked, emotions can cloud our judgment, leading to impulsive or irrational choices. Imagine a situation where you're offered a lucrative job opportunity, but must relocate far from your loved ones. Excitement might push you to accept immediately, while fear of change might lead you to reject it outright. Critical thinking helps you navigate these conflicting emotions, ensuring that your decision aligns with both your aspirations and your values. The first step in emotional mastery is awareness, recognizing when emotions are influencing your thoughts and decisions. This requires pausing to observe your feelings without judgment, much like a scientist studying a phenomenon. For instance, if you find yourself procrastinating on an important decision, ask, what emotion is driving this behavior? Am I avoiding this because I'm afraid of failure, or because I don't feel prepared? By identifying the emotion, you can address its root cause rather than being controlled by it. This simple act of naming your feelings creates a space between stimulus and response, allowing logic to re-enter the equation. Once you've identified your emotions, the next step is validating them. Too often, we dismiss our feelings as irrational or inconvenient, suppressing them in an effort to appear composed. However, denying your emotions only amplifies their power, causing them to resurface in unexpected ways. Instead, acknowledge your feelings with compassion, as you would a trusted friend. For example, if you're feeling overwhelmed by a difficult decision, tell yourself, it's okay to feel this way. This situation is challenging, and my emotions are a natural response. Validation doesn't mean giving in to your emotions. It means respecting them as part of your experience while choosing how to respond. Balancing emotions and logic requires a deeper understanding of how they interact. While emotions provide the energy and urgency to act, logic offers the structure and clarity to act wisely. Critical thinking involves channeling emotional energy into constructive analysis, transforming raw feelings into insights that guide decision-making. For example, let's say you're negotiating a business deal and frustration begins to build as the other party pushes for concessions. Instead of reacting with hostility, channel that frustration into curiosity. Why are they insisting on this point? What underlying needs or concerns are driving their stance? This shift in perspective not only diffuses tension, but also opens the door to creative solutions. One of the most challenging emotions to manage in critical thinking is fear. Fear often arises when we face uncertainty, triggering a fight-or-flight response that narrows our focus and amplifies perceived threats. While fear is a natural and protective emotion, it can also lead to overcautious or hasty decisions if not managed effectively. The key to overcoming fear is reframing it as an opportunity for growth. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" ask, "What can I learn from this experience, regardless of the outcome?" By shifting your focus from avoidance to curiosity, you transform fear from a barrier into a motivator for action. Anger, another powerful emotion, can be equally challenging to navigate. Often, anger stems from a sense of injustice or unmet expectations, and it demands immediate action to address the perceived wrong. However, unchecked anger can lead to rash decisions that escalate conflict rather than resolving it. Critical thinkers recognize the energy anger provides while tempering it with perspective. For instance, if a colleague undermines your efforts at work, your initial reaction might be to confront them angrily. But by pausing to reflect, you might realize that their behavior is driven by their own insecurities or external pressures. This awareness allows you to address the issue calmly and constructively, preserving both your integrity and the relationship. In moments of crisis, hope is often the emotion that sustains us. It is the quiet voice that reminds us of possibility, even when the odds seem stacked against us. Yet, unchecked hope can lead to unrealistic expectations, setting us up for disappointment. Balancing hope with critical thinking involves tempering optimism with realism. Ask yourself, what steps can I take to turn this hope into reality? What challenges might I face along the way, and how can I prepare for them? By grounding hope in action, you transform it into a powerful force for resilience and perseverance. Another crucial aspect of emotional mastery is self-compassion, treating yourself with kindness and understanding, especially when faced with setbacks. Difficult situations often bring out our inner critic, amplifying doubts and regrets. Critical thinkers recognize that self-compassion is not a sign of weakness, but a source of strength. For example, if you make a decision that doesn't pan out as expected, resist the urge to dwell on what you should have done. Instead, focus on what you can learn from the experience and how you can apply that knowledge moving forward. This mindset not only fosters growth, but also builds your emotional resilience for future challenges. Finally, emotional mastery is not about suppressing or eliminating emotions, but about integrating them into the critical thinking process. It's about recognizing that emotions are not obstacles to overcome, but signals to interpret and guide. By developing this skill, you cultivate a balanced perspective that honors both your rational mind and your emotional heart, enabling you to approach life's challenges with grace and wisdom. As you reflect on this chapter, consider the role emotions play in your own decision-making. Are there patterns or triggers that influence your thinking? How can you create space for both logic and feeling in your approach to challenges? Remember, emotional mastery is not a destination, but a journey, one that deepens with practice and self-awareness. The more you integrate your emotions into your critical thinking process, the more equipped you'll be to navigate even the most difficult situations with clarity and confidence. Chapter 7. Overcoming Biases. Recognizing and challenging mental shortcuts. Every decision we make, every opinion we form, is shaped by the unseen forces of bias. These mental shortcuts, developed over time to help us process information quickly, can be both a gift and a curse. On one hand, they allow us to navigate the complexities of daily life without overanalyzing every detail. On the other hand, biases can distort our perceptions, narrow our thinking, and lead us to decisions that are neither fair nor accurate. In difficult situations, these hidden biases become especially dangerous, as they can prevent us from seeing the full picture. To master critical thinking, we must learn to recognize, question, and overcome these mental shortcuts. Biases are like tinted lenses through which we view the world. They filter our experiences, emphasizing certain details while obscuring others. Confirmation bias, for example, causes us to seek out information that aligns with our existing beliefs while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. Imagine you're considering a career change and already leaning toward one particular field. Confirmation bias might lead you to focus on success stories from that field, while downplaying the challenges or risks. This selective attention can create a false sense of certainty, steering you toward a decision that doesn't fully account for reality. Another common bias is anchoring, where we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we encounter. This can be especially problematic in negotiations or problem solving. For instance, if you're buying a car and the seller starts with a high price, that initial number can anchor your expectations, even if it's unreasonable. Without realizing it, You might base your counteroffer on that inflated figure, ultimately paying more than necessary. Recognizing this tendency helps you step back and evaluate the situation objectively, independent of the initial anchor. Cognitive biases often emerge in group dynamics as well. Groupthink, for instance, occurs when the desire for harmony or conformity in a group suppresses dissenting opinions and critical analysis. This bias is particularly dangerous in high-stakes situations where the group's decision can have significant consequences. Consider the example of a team launching a new product. If everyone agrees too quickly without thoroughly examining potential flaws, the product might fail in the market, costing the company valuable resources. Overcoming groupthink requires fostering an environment where diverse perspectives are encouraged and dissenting voices are valued. One of the most insidious biases is the halo effect, where our overall impression of someone influences how we perceive their specific traits. For example, if you admire a colleague's work ethic, you might assume they're also trustworthy or skilled in unrelated areas. While this bias can lead to positive assumptions, it can also blind you to potential red flags. Conversely, the reverse halo effect, or horns effect, causes negative impressions to overshadow someone's strengths. Recognizing these tendencies helps you evaluate people and situations more fairly, based on objective criteria rather than snap judgments. Challenging biases begins with awareness. The moment you acknowledge that your thinking might be influenced by unconscious assumptions, you take the first step toward critical thinking. Start by asking yourself, what assumptions am I making? What evidence am I ignoring? How might my perspective change if I looked at this situation from another angle? These questions create a mental pause, allowing you to re-examine your thoughts before committing to a decision. Another powerful strategy is seeking diverse perspectives. Biases thrive in isolation, but they weaken when exposed to differing viewpoints. If you're tackling a complex problem, invite others to share their insights, especially those with backgrounds or experiences different from your own. For instance, if you're designing a marketing campaign, consulting someone from your target audience can reveal blind spots you might have overlooked. This practice not only enriches your understanding, but also fosters empathy and inclusivity in your approach. Critical thinking also involves testing your assumptions through experimentation. Instead of accepting your initial conclusions as fact, look for ways to validate or challenge them. For example, if you're unsure whether a particular investment strategy is right for you, start by applying it on a small scale. Track the results and adjust your approach based on what you learn. This iterative process minimizes risk while allowing you to refine your thinking over time. One of the most effective ways to combat bias is by cultivating intellectual humility, the willingness to admit when you're wrong and revise your beliefs in light of new evidence. This quality is especially important in difficult situations where emotions and stakes run high. Imagine you're in a heated disagreement with a friend over a political issue. Intellectual humility allows you to set aside your ego, listen to their perspective with an open mind, and acknowledge when they raise valid points. This doesn't mean abandoning your beliefs, but rather refining them through constructive dialogue. Another essential practice is questioning the source of your information. In today's age of information overload, it's easy to fall prey to misinformation or selective reporting. Critical thinkers evaluate the credibility, relevance, and bias of their sources, ensuring that their decisions are based on reliable data. For example, if you're researching a controversial topic, cross-check information from multiple sources, including those with differing viewpoints. This not only reduces bias, but also deepens your understanding of the issue. Biases are deeply ingrained, shaped by years of experience, culture, and conditioning. Overcoming them is not a one-time effort, but a lifelong journey. Each time you challenge a bias, you strengthen your ability to think critically, approaching problems with greater clarity and fairness. This process requires patience and self-compassion, as it often involves confronting uncomfortable truths about your own thinking. As you reflect on this chapter, consider the biases that might be influencing your decisions. Are you anchoring your expectations on past experiences? Are you seeking out information that confirms your beliefs while ignoring opposing evidence? By asking these questions and embracing the discomfort of self-examination, you take a powerful step toward mastering the art of critical thinking. Biases may be a natural part of human cognition, but they don't have to define your choices. With awareness, curiosity, and practice, you can rise above these mental shortcuts, making decisions that are fair, informed, and aligned with your values. Chapter 8. The Power of Perspective. Expanding your vision to unlock solutions. Perspective is the lens through which we see the world, shaping how we interpret events, people, and problems. Yet, in challenging situations, this lens often narrows, trapping us in a singular view that limits our options. The stress and urgency of difficult moments can make it hard to step back, leaving us stuck in cycles of frustration or helplessness. But what if you could widen that lens, shifting your perspective to uncover solutions you hadn't considered? Mastering critical thinking in difficult situations requires precisely this skill. The ability to see problems from multiple angles, transforming obstacles into opportunities for insight and growth. Imagine you're standing in front of a locked door, desperately searching for the key. You've checked your pockets, retraced your steps, and tried every possible combination to force it open, but the door won't budge. In frustration, you fail to notice the open window just a few steps away. This scenario captures what it's like to face a problem with a fixed perspective. We focus so intently on the obvious solution that we overlook alternative paths. Critical thinking invites us to step back, ask different questions, and explore new possibilities, shifting our focus from what's blocking us to what's available. The first step in expanding your perspective is acknowledging its limitations. We all view the world through the filter of our experiences, beliefs, and assumptions. While these filters help us make sense of complexity, they also create blind spots. For example, if you've always believed that success requires working tirelessly without pause, you might dismiss opportunities to delegate or take a step back as signs of weakness. Recognizing these biases allows you to challenge them, opening the door to fresh insights. One powerful way to expand your perspective is through empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes to see the world from their vantage point. Empathy isn't just about understanding others. It's about broadening your own understanding of a situation. For instance, if you're involved in a conflict with a colleague, take a moment to consider their motivations, challenges, and feelings. What might the problem look like from their perspective? This exercise not only fosters understanding, but also reveals solutions that address the needs of all parties involved. Another approach to shifting perspective is reframing. This involves looking at a problem through a different lens, turning its constraints into opportunities. Let's say you've been passed over for a promotion you worked hard to achieve. Instead of seeing this as a failure, ask yourself, what can this teach me? How can I use this setback to grow? Perhaps the experience highlights areas where you can improve or pushes you to pursue opportunities that align more closely with your values. By reframing challenges as stepping stones rather than roadblocks, you cultivate resilience and creativity in problem solving. Perspective can also be expanded by seeking out diverse experiences and viewpoints. Surrounding yourself with people from different backgrounds, cultures, and industries enriches your understanding of the world, equipping you to approach problems with greater nuance. For example, if you're leading a project, inviting team members with varying expertise and viewpoints can reveal innovative solutions you wouldn't have discovered on your own. This diversity of thought not only enhances your critical thinking, but also fosters collaboration and mutual respect. Time and distance are also invaluable tools for shifting perspective. When faced with a difficult decision, the immediacy of the situation can cloud your judgment, making it hard to see beyond the present moment. Taking a step back, whether by pausing to reflect, seeking advice, or simply sleeping on it, creates the space needed to gain clarity. Distance allows you to evaluate the situation more objectively, considering its broader implications and long-term impact. For instance, a decision that feels urgent today may seem less critical when viewed in the context of your long-term goals. Another technique for broadening perspective is imagining alternative scenarios. What if the constraints you're facing were removed? What if you approached the problem as an outsider with no prior knowledge or emotional attachment? This kind of what-if thinking encourages you to break free from habitual patterns and explore unconventional solutions. For example, if you're struggling to grow your business within a saturated market, asking, "What would this look like if I started fresh in a new industry?" might reveal opportunities for innovation or reinvention. Perspective isn't just about how you see problems, it's also about how you see yourself. In moments of doubt or fear, it's easy to fall into self-limiting beliefs, convincing yourself that you're not capable or deserving of success. Critical thinking challenges these narratives, encouraging you to view yourself through a lens of possibility. Ask yourself, what would I do if I believed I couldn't fail? How would I approach this challenge if I trusted in my ability to adapt and grow? Shifting your perspective on yourself not only builds confidence, but also empowers you to take bold, purposeful action. Expanding perspective also involves embracing uncertainty. Difficult situations often come with ambiguity, where the right answer isn't clear. Instead of fearing the unknown, view it as an opportunity to learn and explore. This mindset shift allows you to approach problems with curiosity rather than resistance, uncovering possibilities that might otherwise remain hidden. For instance, if you're navigating a career transition, instead of fixating on finding the perfect job immediately, explore different roles, industries, and skills that excite you. This openness to exploration often leads to unexpected opportunities and insights. Finally, perspective is not static. It evolves with experience, reflection, and growth. The way you view a challenge today may differ from how you see it a year from now, as new insights and experiences shape your understanding. By cultivating a mindset of continuous learning, you ensure that your perspective remains flexible and adaptive, equipping you to face whatever challenges come your way. As you reflect on this chapter, consider a problem or situation where you felt stuck. What assumptions are shaping your perspective? How might you view the situation differently if you stepped back or sought input from others? Remember, perspective is not just about changing how you see. It's about changing what you see. By expanding your vision, you unlock new possibilities, transforming even the most daunting challenges into opportunities for growth and discovery. Chapter 9. Decision-making mastery. Making thoughtful choices in times of uncertainty. In the midst of difficulty, the pressure to make quick decisions can feel overwhelming. It's as if time is slipping through your fingers and every second counts. The temptation to act immediately without pausing to think is powerful. However, some of the most important decisions we make are not those that are based on speed, but those that are grounded in careful thought, analysis, and self-reflection. In difficult situations, we must learn the art of decision-making, not merely as a function of reacting, but as a strategic process that balances urgency with wisdom. Mastering the process of decision-making is essential not only for navigating challenges with confidence, but also for achieving long-term success and personal fulfillment. The first step in mastering decision-making is to recognize the inherent uncertainty that comes with any choice. Life is unpredictable, and no decision can guarantee a perfect outcome. This recognition can be both liberating and humbling. By accepting uncertainty, we free ourselves from the need for perfect answers, allowing us to make decisions that are based on the best available information. rather than paralyzed by the fear of failure. For instance, when facing a career decision, you may not know exactly how a new role will unfold, but by focusing on what aligns best with your values and goals, you can make an informed choice that feels right for you at the time. In times of uncertainty, one of the most valuable tools at your disposal is gathering information. Critical thinkers approach decisions as a process of exploration rather than merely jumping to conclusions. Begin by collecting as much relevant data as possible, but remember that information alone isn't enough. Context matters. Numbers, facts, and figures may provide important insights, but it's equally essential to understand the larger picture. What are the long-term consequences of this decision? What impact will it have on your relationships, your well-being, or your goals? Taking the time to understand the context of your choices helps you navigate beyond surface-level concerns and make decisions that are aligned with your values and aspirations. Next, it's important to evaluate your options objectively. Decision-making can become clouded by emotions, preferences, and biases, but critical thinkers strive to assess each alternative based on its merits, rather than personal attachment. Consider the potential risks and rewards of each option, as well as how each aligns with your priorities. For example, if you're choosing between two job offers, one may offer higher pay, while the other provides greater job satisfaction. By objectively weighing the long-term benefits of each choice, not just the immediate rewards, you make a decision that supports both your immediate needs and future growth. Another important consideration is recognizing your own motivations and desires. Sometimes, our decisions are influenced more by external pressures than by our internal compass. We might choose a path because it seems safe or because others expect it of us, rather than because it resonates with our core values. Critical thinking involves asking yourself the tough questions. What do I truly want? How does this decision align with who I am and who I want to become? For example, if you're deciding whether to stay in a job that offers security but little fulfillment, ask yourself how staying might affect your personal growth, happiness, and sense of purpose. By aligning your decisions with your authentic self, you create a life that reflects your values and aspirations. Once you've gathered information, weighed options, and reflected on your values, it's time to confront the fear of making the wrong choice. We all fear making mistakes, especially when the stakes are high. But the truth is, no decision is entirely free from risk. Fear of failure can paralyze you into inaction, but critical thinking teaches us that making a decision, any decision, is often better than making none at all. When faced with uncertainty, you can mitigate risk by breaking down your decision into smaller, manageable steps. Instead of committing to a long-term course of action, start with a small pilot or trial to test your assumptions and see how things unfold. This iterative approach reduces the pressure of making the perfect decision and allows you to adapt as you go. In decision-making, there is also great power in taking time to pause. The rush to make a decision can often lead to hasty choices that lack the depth needed for long-term success. Critical thinkers understand the value of patience, not as an excuse to delay action, but as an opportunity to gain clarity. If possible, step away from the decision-making process for a moment. Take a walk, meditate, or talk to a trusted advisor. This break in the process helps reset your mind, allowing you to approach the decision with renewed perspective and emotional calm. One technique to help guide decision-making is to visualize different scenarios. Imagine each potential outcome and how it might feel. What are the potential gains and losses of each choice? This technique allows you to consider both the logical and emotional dimensions of your decision, ensuring that you're fully aware of what each option entails. For example, if you're choosing between two business ventures, imagine the outcome of each decision, not just in terms of profits, but also in terms of your personal satisfaction, your relationships, and your future growth. Visualization helps you step outside the immediate pressure of the moment, creating a clearer path toward a decision that feels authentic and well-rounded. Critical thinking in decision-making also involves learning from past experiences. Reflecting on previous choices and their outcomes, especially those that led to growth or success, provides valuable insights for the present. In fact, the ability to learn from mistakes is one of the most powerful tools you can develop. Each decision, whether it results in success or failure, contributes to your growth and enhances your ability to think critically in the future. As you approach any difficult decision, it's important to remember that you are not bound by perfection. Instead, aim for decisions that reflect your best judgment in the moment. When faced with uncertainty, trust in your ability to make informed choices and remember that no decision is final. If new information or circumstances arise, you can always adjust your course. This flexibility fosters resilience, helping you navigate challenges with grace and adaptability. Ultimately, mastering decision-making is about finding balance. It's about giving yourself permission to trust your instincts, while also taking the time to reflect, gather information, and weigh options carefully. It's about embracing both the uncertainty and the possibilities that each decision offers. By mastering this process, you not only become a better decision maker, but you also develop the confidence to face life's challenges head-on, knowing that each choice is an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. As you reflect on the decisions you face, consider how you can apply these principles to your own life. What choices are currently on your horizon? How can you apply patience, reflection, and information gathering to make the most thoughtful decision possible? Remember, critical thinking isn't about avoiding mistakes, but about making decisions with intention, awareness, and clarity. Chapter 10. The Path to Long-Term Growth. Cultivating Lifelong Critical Thinking Habits. Critical thinking is not just a tool for solving immediate problems or navigating difficult situations. It is a lifelong journey, a continuous cycle of learning, reflection, and growth. By now, we've explored how to engage with challenges, how to recognize biases, how to expand our perspective, and how to make thoughtful decisions. However, the real power of critical thinking lies in its ability to shape the course of our lives, allowing us to evolve constantly, adapt to change, and continue growing long after the immediate challenge has passed. The art of critical thinking is not something you apply once and then forget about. It is a mindset, a habit, and a discipline that can guide you toward greater self-awareness, deeper understanding, and sustained success over time. So, how do you cultivate these habits and make critical thinking a lifelong pursuit? The first step is to view critical thinking not as a skill, but as an ongoing process, a way of approaching life itself. Just like physical fitness requires consistent exercise, your mind thrives when it is continually engaged in thoughtful reflection and problem solving. In the same way you might schedule regular workouts to maintain physical health, you can set aside time each day or week to engage in activities that challenge your thinking. These can range from reading challenging books, discussing complex issues with others, or even writing down your reflections and insights. By making critical thinking a regular practice, you develop the mental stamina needed to tackle even the most complex challenges. One of the most powerful ways to make critical thinking a part of your daily life is by fostering a curious mindset. Curiosity is the foundation of all learning and the driving force behind the ability to think critically. Every question you ask, every new idea you explore, adds to your mental toolbox, enhancing your ability to engage with the world thoughtfully and creatively. Curiosity helps you approach problems not as obstacles, but as opportunities for learning and growth. In difficult situations, it is often curiosity that can unlock new insights, encouraging you to ask deeper questions, explore alternative solutions, and see the problem from a fresh angle. For instance, when faced with a work-related challenge, instead of simply reacting, ask yourself, what do I not know about this situation? What assumptions am I making? that could be limiting my understanding. This mindset shifts the focus from finding a quick fix to deepening your understanding of the issue at hand, which ultimately leads to more effective and lasting solutions. Developing intellectual humility is also crucial to lifelong growth. Intellectual humility is the willingness to admit that you don't have all the answers and that there is always more to learn. It involves accepting that your knowledge and understanding are limited, and that even your most deeply held beliefs can be revised in light of new evidence. This humility doesn't mean giving up on your values or becoming passive. It simply means being open to change and growth, even when it challenges your current thinking. Intellectual humility is particularly important as you move through different stages of life and experience new perspectives. What you believe to be true today may be reshaped by new experiences and knowledge tomorrow. Embracing this fluidity in your thinking allows you to adapt to new challenges, refine your beliefs, and remain open to opportunities for growth. Another critical habit for fostering lifelong growth in critical thinking is embracing discomfort. Growth rarely happens in the comfort zone. In fact, some of the most profound insights and breakthroughs occur when you push yourself to confront discomfort and uncertainty. This could mean stepping into unfamiliar situations, tackling complex problems that seem overwhelming, or confronting your own biases and limitations. In moments of discomfort, remind yourself that this is where growth occurs. The most successful thinkers are often those who are willing to step into the unknown, to challenge their assumptions, and to test their ideas against reality. Instead of avoiding uncomfortable situations, approach them as opportunities for personal and intellectual development. Along with intellectual humility and curiosity, reflection is another vital habit that sustains long-term growth. Reflection involves stepping back from a situation, process, or decision to evaluate what you've learned and how you can improve. It's easy to become caught up in the rush of day-to-day life, making decisions based on instinct or external pressure. But regular reflection allows you to pause, assess, and course-correct as needed. After making a major decision, for instance, take time to reflect on how the outcome aligns with your expectations and values. Did you learn something new? Were there any unexpected challenges? By reflecting on both successes and failures, you develop the ability to refine your thinking and make better informed decisions in the future. Reflection helps you see not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it, deepening your awareness of your own thinking patterns and how they influence your actions. Critical thinking also thrives when you actively seek feedback from others. Engaging with people who think differently from you can open up new perspectives and challenge your assumptions. Instead of surrounding yourself with only like-minded individuals, make an effort to engage with people who bring fresh ideas and viewpoints. These interactions encourage you to think critically about your beliefs, expand your understanding, and refine your reasoning. Whether through formal mentorship or casual conversations, feedback provides the external insight you need to grow. Additionally, feedback isn't just about receiving advice. It's about sharing your own ideas and getting input on them. Engaging in constructive debates or discussions helps sharpen your thinking, revealing any weak points in your reasoning and challenging you to strengthen your arguments. Another key element of critical thinking is the willingness to experiment. Life is full of uncertainties, and not every decision can be made with perfect clarity. Critical thinkers embrace experimentation as a way to test ideas and refine solutions. Rather than committing to a decision based on theory or speculation, experiment with small, manageable actions to gauge their effectiveness. This iterative approach allows you to adjust and improve without committing to a decision blindly. It also creates space for innovation, as experimenting with different approaches often uncovers unexpected solutions. Finally, to sustain lifelong growth in critical thinking, it's important to build resilience. Life will inevitably present setbacks, failures, and challenges, and how you respond to these obstacles will determine your ability to continue growing. Resilience doesn't mean avoiding failure. It means bouncing back, learning from mistakes, and using them as fuel for further development. When facing adversity, ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience?